This Friday, Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are back to switch things up in Disney's Freakier Friday.
Totally, yes.
It's an absolute riot, and the only movie that can be described as
So much weirder than the last time.
What last time?
it's the frequel
You ready?
we've been waiting for.
That absolutely slays.
What deeply out of touch old person came up with that?
You did.
Wow.
Don't miss the comedy event of the summer for all ages. Disney's Freakier Friday in theaters this Friday. Get tickets now. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
It's Wednesday Addams. I see you're trying to distract yourself from your own banal thoughts. Let me help. Here's a recording thing made of my latest root canal.
Wednesday, Season 2, begins August 6th, only on Netflix.
Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Xyzal is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Xyzal keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all. Take Xyzal. At night.
Pie in the Sky Media. This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence throughout. Listener discretion is advised.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back, Criminal Mischief Nation, to another bonus episode, and a happy Martin Luther King Day. This is one of my favorite holidays. Martin Luther King was a hero of mine in high school. I did a ton of research on him. I studied all of his speeches. The letters from when he was in prison. I loved the cadence of his speech. I just found him very, very inspirational as a younger man. And so this holiday always reminds me of that time in my life. So happy.
What was the jumping off point? What captured your attention and your I mean, aside from the obvious, but like as a teenager,
As a sophomore in high school in history class.
I swear to God, if there's a girl involved in this, I'm
not
just...
a girl involved. There's not a girl
good.
involved. As a sophomore in high school, we had to pick a topic for like a big midterm like paper. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd forgotten about it. I didn't do the work. Okay. And I knew very, very little about Martin Luther King Jr. Okay. So he's going around the class. All right, Susie, what's your topic? I'm going to do Alexander the Great, conquering, Darius. Okay, great. What are you going to do? I'm going to do the George Washington. I'm going to do, and I went, oh, fuck. Okay. All right, I want to do Martin Luther King Jr. I'm going to do Martin Luther King. And I knew nothing about him. And then the kid in front of me picked Martin Luther King. So I'm thinking I'm screwed, but I used it to my advantage. I went, that's what I was going to do. I had all this research, right? Like completely lying, right?
Oh my gosh. And totally looking like you're the victim. Oh.
Totally playing the victim. And what the teacher said was, he goes, oh, well, Branden, if you've done so much work on this, here's what we can do. Instead of you doing a paper on Martin Luther King, why don't you just focus on do a paper on the March on Washington and the I Have a Dream speech, just on that. I went, well, okay, still the victim. And so what I was able to do was a deep dive into everything about that day and specifically about that speech. And that's
what's cool is that you knew that you had that competition because you had to go up against that other guy and you were like, he's not going to beat me.
Yeah. And it wound up being great because I was able to, my entry point into a great man was probably his greatest public appearance. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so that really lit me up. And then I was able to move backwards and figure out what brought him there. And so it was great. It was really a several years long kind of relationship with researching him and everything about it. So, so it's, one of my favorite holidays today. Maybe my favorite non-gift giving, fake entity holidays,
Can you just say that you love the holiday? Is it too much to ask?
Just want to get specific. I like getting gifts.
No, nobody's gonna accuse you of
I
being
like getting
sentimental.
I like
Nobody's
Easter
gonna
candy. I
accuse
like
you.
Halloween candy, right?
I know.
I like Valentine's Day, but all that stuff's made up. This is like a real thing. This is, a guy. So that's what I like about it.
Well, he's a good one. So yes,
Yes,
happy Martin Luther
absolutely.
King Jr. Day, and thank you for
Happy-
sharing that story because I love when you fall in love with a character and he's not a character, he's larger than life, but you did the work and it obviously had a huge impact at a really important time in your life.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I
You know,
feel the same way about Eleanor Roosevelt.
yeah,
I got
yeah,
really into her.
great.
ER.
Well, the great thing
You
about
know.
King, other than what, all of his wonderful work on behalf of the minority community and on behalf of America as a whole, the moral arc of the universe, bend towards justice, like all of that, is that the specific things, like the pillars of his character and of his movement, one of them being peaceful, nonviolent protest. Okay. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh shit, that takes a lot of balls, right? And so then that leads you to like the Mahatma Gandhis of the world, right? And other people who came before him that he learned from and was influenced by, like Jackie Robinson, right? How the owner of the Dodgers, I don't know if it's apocryphal or how accurate the interaction is with Branch Rickey when Rickey was telling him, you can't react, these people are going to try to get you to be the monster and the boogeyman that they're painting you as, and you can't do it. And he goes, what, you want me to you want me to not fight back? He goes, no, I want you to be so strong that you don't have to fight back. Like, that's who I need you to be, right? And then, and do it on the field and show them. And so you can draw all of these comparisons between these great people throughout history that embodied a lot of the same, characteristics when it came to their social stances,
Well, and
um,
that's the harder thing to do. The harder thing is to not
react.
react and not beat someone up and not want vengeance and not, especially when there's no justice. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a high bar and a high road, and he definitely walked it. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. So happy Martin Luther King Day. All right. So let's get to this freaking story. Oh,
do you see why it needed two parts now?
oh man. Yeah. Yeah. So we jump in with the interview of the kid,
Yeah.
which is got to be such a difficult proposition for a mental health expert and a kid kind of DIFUS or whatever. What do they call it up there? It's not DIFUS, is it? It's Child Services, CPS, or whatever, Child Protective
Oh,
Services.
yeah.
Um,
Department of Social and Health Services is the entity that
right down here,
was
it's
involved.
Department of Youth and Family Services. They call it DIFUS, but
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
yeah, but so because you never know what this kid's gonna say, right? And the kid, I love the s'more recipe. S'more
Mhm,
recipe was on point with this kid,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
To
mhm,
added, remembered the second graham cracker. Like the kid's
mhm,
going, okay,
absolutely.
graham cracker, marshmallow, chocolate, and then graham cracker.
Right, you can't forget the lid.
Of
You
course,
can't forget it.
or then it's not
You'd
a
be
sandwich,
remiss.
and then shit'll get everywhere. Right, exactly. So the kid knew that. Um, and what do you think? You know so much more about this than I do because I knew nothing about
Yeah,
this case. What
mhm.
is the general consensus of what did people think the kid meant when mommy's with the crystal where the crystals are?
In the mines, you know? I mean, they have lots of, I mean, I can't I mean, I don't know what that means, and I don't know if I think that, people just thought she was in the mines.
Right.
Is there a
Because
place,
shiny
like, there's where there's shiny crystals? I don't know, but he could have been it could have been rocks, like, how
diamonds,
rocks, like
shiny,
fool's gold.
right?
Fool's gold.
Or like shiny, like valuable things, where shiny valuable things are. Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that, to a child, like, I mean, I don't know if you ever messed around with fool's gold, like, when
No.
you were a kid and just like, oh my gosh,
No.
playing in the mud and the river and all that. Like, I mean,
But so does
whatever.
that mean that the kid was there in the mines with the dad?
I mean, I think that he was somewhere
Right.
I mean, I believe that he took her out there and, put her somewhere out there.
Was she already dead before they left the house?
I
Probably
don't.
because of the wet couch and the fans, like, the death blow was probably
Okay,
struck.
well, here's the thing. They think that he possibly, that pancake breakfast, it was a big deal because Giovanna, the neighbor, came over and she was helping untwine the yarn.
Yeah.
And she walked in, and it was after Susan had taken the children to church, and they came back, and she saw Josh cooking, which was like crazy because he never did it. And he's, seems like this guy that's just like, I mean, he took his family out to meals for like $4.77 at some taco joint there, and he was really proud of that. Like,
Sounds
he
delicious.
was just thought that was so cool, and he
Tacos
talked about that
tacos
during
are
the
great.
interview, but he didn't cook. He refused to cook. And so I think some people believe that he spiked her pancake because it was separate from the other food, and then she kind of had didn't feel well and was really tired. And so I think that there's no evidence to prove that happened, but it could be a potential. So she was kind of incapacitated a little bit, Somehow he got her in the back of that minivan, in the trunk, I think, and then drove her out there.
Because the kid drew a picture of a stick figure in the fucking trunk. That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah.
Wow. All right. So
What do you think? Because you haven't heard anything. What do you think?
gosh, I the kids being there, it makes everything like up in the air, like, do you hide it from the kids? Like, is mommy sleeping the whole time? Why are you putting mommy in the trunk? Like, this guy wasn't stupid. He knew that the kids weren't fucking deaf mutes. You know what I mean? Like, the kids
No,
could.
but think about it. Think about it. He puts them in the car at like 2 a.m, and they're like asleep. And when you put
That's
your
true.
little children in their
Oh, yeah.
car seats, 4-year-old and 2-year-old, they're going to be asleep in 5 seconds once you have that heat on.
Yeah.
And they're just, you put them in there and they're probably falling asleep. You know what I mean? So then if he puts mommy in the trunk and then they drive, they're going to be asleep that entire time. They're going to be asleep that entire drive.
And how would he have the imagery of a stick figure in the trunk?
Well, maybe they woke up
Or
and they hadn't gotten to their
maybe
destination.
right. Maybe he woke up when daddy was taking mommy out of the trunk.
I mean,
And
something
daddy
happened.
didn't know that the kid was looking.
And you know how kids are. That paradigm can change on a dime too.
Yeah.
Like one of them wakes up and they're like had a nightmare or something, or they get up and they look. I mean, it was pretty ballsy for him to even do this.
Yeah.
With the children.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he wanted them to be his alibi.
So I don't understand several things. I mean, intellectually I understand them, just emotionally I don't really get it. Okay, so the beginning of episode 6 of Devil Within, it talks about what caused the blackout in Manhattan in 1977. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was described as a cascading series of failures. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one thing. It was all of these things that led up to it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think this one starts with the cops letting him go.
Yeah.
They let him go.
But I don't think it was the cops. Like in the material that I read,
yeah,
those detectives wanted to arrest him that night when he came back. Well, first of all, he brought the kids. When he came back from this camping trip and he pulls up and the cops are there and his family's there and they're like, what's going on? And he's like, what? Susan's not at work. I just went to try to pick her up and she's not there. He's playing this role of the confused husband and she should have been at work, right? So then they want him to go down to the station. Well, he insists on bringing Charlie and Branden. So he's already out thinking them. He knows a 2 and a 4-year-old are going to last about 5 seconds in that closed room that gets hot. And they're like, they've been in a car all day. Like it's the perfect thing to get out of there. Right. So then they tell him, okay, you need to come back. We need to continue this interview the next day. Well, he doesn't wake up in the morning and continue the interview right away. He's not down there at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. He is cleaning. He lit something on fire with this this machine that he had from Home Depot, which they still don't know what he lit on fire. It could have been the murder weapon. Who knows what it was, right? So he gets there, and that's when that 3-hour interview takes place. So he was already kind of scheming, and he had, I guess, a high IQ, which, you know, I mean, a high IQ doesn't mean that you're emotionally intelligent. It doesn't mean that you're, you know, you can, I don't know. He wasn't dumb, basically.
Problem solving. IQ basically relates to problem solving. So
yeah. Yeah.
So which makes sense because the cops
this was a huge problem.
Right, the cops thought they were so smart they put a tracking device on his minivan and then figure they can just chill, and he doesn't even look at the minivan. He gets in a cab and leaves.
I know.
And the cops don't follow him?
I
That's the second problem. One, they let him go. Two, they
I know.
figure, we got the tracker on his van. We're solid. No, dipshits, you're not. He's gone. And now you lost him for an 800-mile round trip, and you don't know where he went.
I think they underestimated him because
100%.
you know what? There was no domestic violence that had been reported. The police hadn't been there. You know, they're like thinking, of course, but the kid said they went on an airplane to Dinosaur National Park, which wasn't true. You know, so obviously the kid's saying some things, but I think they absolutely believed, you know, Charlie. Absolutely. And I do too. You know?
Yeah, I totally believe Charlie. Maybe they just didn't have enough to keep him. But then why tell him you're not going anywhere?
This has been a point of contention, I think, reading between the lines, is that the detectives wanted to hold him and arrest him. But the prosecutors were like, we don't have a body. There's not enough. And so I think that, you know, the higher ups were basically like, you got to cut him loose. And they probably were like, okay, let's do the tracker. Maybe he'll bring, and they wanted to find Susan. You know, they weren't, I'm sure they probably thought she was dead. But, you know, you can always pull that
rookie detective to tail him. Just follow him.
I know. I just think, again, I think they underestimated him.
Right.
If you saw him there, you wouldn't think he was a mental giant, a huge schemer. You know, he was sitting there like this. I mean, he was sniffling the entire interview. I mean, I had to cut out.
I couldn't believe that. Was driving me insane. I could see it in the waveforms of when I was editing. I'm like, he's sniffling.
I know,
and
I know, and I edited out tons of snivels because I'm like, I can't deal with this guy, and he's so like men like this are just like disgusting to me. That
agree.
He sits there and is pissed off that the window got broken when his wife. I mean, it's like he can't hide that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Even though he's trying to be all like, I don't know where she would go.
So then he moves up north.
He hightails it. Like he's like not even putting up a show. He doesn't even go to any of these.
Doesn't help.
Doesn't help. And
doesn't help to look for his wife.
Galvanized, hundreds of people. I mean, they've got the Mormon church behind him. They've got you can imagine.
But look what he does. He goes home and he gets people to concoct an alternative set of facts that she ran off with another man. Mm-hmm. That's it.
I know. And believe me, I was so happy when those interviews backfired on that guy. I was I know, right?
He gave them enough for a search warrant of his own place. And they found all of that
Branden is sitting there clapping,
ringing. I'm twisting my mustache.
Exactly. Yes, I know. I was too, and I was like, I had to describe what he did because I know it was a lot. But I'm like, I want the world to know what he was doing.
I thought all right, the guy's a piece of shit because he's perving after his daughter-in-law, right? Mm-hmm. But then it gets worse with like his 7 and 11-year-old neighbors with a telephoto lens while they're going to the bathroom. Are you fucking kidding me? Right?
And he was acting so high and mighty at those news. That's why I had to put those cuts in with him being like all in Chuck Cox's face and just like totally acting like they were the innocent victims. And like, you know what I mean? Like, and all the while, this guy has a trove
of kitty porn. He goes down for kitty porn. Boom.
Yeah. And voyeurism. But also can you imagine? I mean, kept a stash of her used feminine
I
products.
Brandon does not want to talk about that part. Okay. Okay. So let's just
Okay.
suffice it to
Well,
say,
you know what?
the guy's a piece of shit. Okay, great. Moving on. Thank you. Okay. Now let's talk about the partner in crime, the accomplice brother. Because this is interesting. This is interesting. This is really, really interesting. Okay. I have an older brother and a younger brother. Okay. I happen to be very fond of both of their spouses, so I can't really put myself in this position. But there's that great and really kind of hyperbolic axiom that says, like a good friend will help you hide a secret, a best friend will help you hide a body, right? And so that applies, like right here. He called his brother, and I know it for a fact, and not for a fact, but I know it. He called his brother and said, "I killed my wife, and I need your help." And the brother's like, "Well, okay, I'm sure you had good reason. Let's take care of this. Let's be smart. It's two of us now. We'll have dad run interference with all this. She ran off with another dude, and you and I will do the hard shit together. Let's go."
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
United Healthcare nurse Crystal checked in on a patient.
We do a routine call after surgery, and I could tell in her voice that she was struggling.
Crystal knew she needed help.
And I knew that this is very serious. This is like septic. This is life-threatening.
And she knew just what to do.
And I called the hospital and said, "She's coming in. Here are her labs."
And got her the help she needed.
I see my role at United Healthcare as a life-saving role.
Hear more stories like Crystal's at UHC.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan area. Limitation and exclusions apply.
Your burger is served. And this is our finest Pepsi Zero Sugar. Its sweet profile perfectly balances the savory notes of your burger.
That is one perfect combination. Burgers deserve Pepsi.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
You know what? I know this is like a bro fantasy here that you're doing, but
No, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Because
think
my answer is I wouldn't do it.
I believe that you wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't
absolutely.
do it.
The reason why this worked in that way, if it did work in that way, is because of the dad instilling in them these weird ideas about against religion, again. And I'm not saying weird ideas. I just mean like that whole family dynamic of
Militant. Yeah.
and against the government, against authority, against women, against that whole thing, like it's us against the world, and like I think that he fostered that, and that's why I said in episode 1, the dad is like the root of these evil seeds, and I just feel like it's so terrible. It doesn't excuse anything that Josh did. It doesn't excuse anything that the brother Michael might have done. And I absolutely believe you're right that the guy that he called his brother and he said, I did it. I need your help.
I need a solid.
She deserved it. She was going to take my kids from me. She was
right.
going
And
to.
here's why, right? Because he had she has no voice anymore. So he could say she was about to stab me. It was an
Oh,
accident,
well,
but no one will ever
he
no one
did.
will ever believe me. But you
Oh,
got to believe me, bro. I had no choice.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
so remind everybody what happened to the pedo dad. He died right after he did 5 years and died as soon as he got out, right?
Yeah, and they were like at his hospital because he had some heart condition. They were like in the hospital, like saying, "Hey, tell us do you know anything? Do you know where Susan is? You're gonna die. Basically, this is
Nothing.
the time."
And
Nothing.
he had some
But of
fucking
course,
weird
it's
hillbilly omerta, right? They're just like, nope, not saying
oh,
shit.
not only that, but he was probably. To watch those videos, it was like he was getting off on just having the control and the attention and being able to say all these things about Susan and like slam her name and smear her name and
Oh,
bring up
what a
her
coward.
sexual
What a
her
coward.
this is a classic patriarchy
Misogyny.
bullshit.
Yeah.
And all the while he's got this locked cabinet and all these secrets, all this
Oh,
secrecy.
man. All right. And now there's a kind of a denouement or something wrapping up with the brother Michael too, correct?
Well, he ultimately committed suicide,
Right.
and so he
Huh.
was listed as
What is
his beneficiary of
right.
his will. And I
Right. So what
think
does
that
that mean?
pressure, the
Of course,
pressure was
guilt. Now listen, mental disease and suicidal thoughts are actually very, very serious. And I like that you put these disclaimers at the end of a lot of your episodes if you're having these suicidal ideations or anything like that to make a call and to seek help. But this guy, I think it's very, very clear that he couldn't outrun it. He couldn't outrun the guilt anymore.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because of what his brother did next. After brother Michael helps him hide the body and get away with shit, um, things just got worse. Dad goes away for pedo stuff. Okay, they start looking at the kid for some pedo stuff, and they're like, "You want to keep your kids? You got to take the sex test if children get you off, okay,
Mhm.
and take
Mhm.
a lie detector." And he's like,
Mhm.
"Uh-oh, I'm gonna fail both of those motherfuckers, okay? And what's gonna happen
But I
then?"
mean, how hard? I don't know what your feeling is about polygraphs, but like I think that is just a tool for law enforcement, and that people fail them and are innocent, and pass them and they're guilty. But I think there's something to this psychosexual evaluation. If you could be
I
in a
looked it up.
room,
I looked up the psychosexual evaluation.
wait, your search engine is becoming
It's
close to
gonna be
what mine
weird.
is.
I'm probably gonna get some people at my door, but no, but because I do another podcast in the medical field, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
so I asked about that during our most recent uh, session because they know that I do true
Wait a
crime
second.
stuff also.
You asked them about it. You were like,
Well,
"Hey,
they knew
doctors,
about
let
this
me ask
case.
you a question. Let me
They
ask
knew
you a
it.
question."
They knew about this case. Okay,
Mm.
it's like I'm the only person in the fucking world that didn't know about it. So they knew about the case, and so um, there's actually a medical device that detects male arousal.
Yes, that's what this evaluation is.
And I wrote down what it's called. And it's a very strange name. It's a very strange name. Are you ready? It's
Is it
called a
German?
no, it's called a penile plethysmograph. Okay. And so what it does, even if like a dude, you're sitting there, you're like, all right, I'm not going to get turned on. I'm going to think about baseball. Okay. Like no matter what, if something in the darkest recesses of your mind says, wow, that's erotic, even the slightest little twinge of arousal and this machine would pick it up. So you can't like hide it. Okay.
I
And
know, that's
so,
why I'm saying I
yeah,
don't take a lot of stock in polygraphs, but you know
right.
what? I would put
I would
money
I
on
would
this
take
thing.
stock in that also. And so
I
of the two things that law enforcement that we're dealing with now, the lie detector test and this dick sensor, okay? Of those two things, don't laugh. It's a medical term, Carolyn. All right?
I know. I'm like, how did we come from penile?
Because I don't want to. I can't. I think I pronounced it wrong, and I'm going to sound like an idiot if I try again. So,
but dick sensor sounds so.
We all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay.
We do. But I know. But if
of those two things, I think the lie detector test is primarily a tool to see how they're going to react when said you have to. You know what I mean? Like, are you willing to? Sure, I'm totally willing to.
It's a multi-pronged thing.
Yeah,
It's not only that, but then once you're hooked up, it's also they can continue to interrogate you if you have a very skilled polygrapher, right?
Yes.
And so that's something that they are sanctioned to be able to do, so they can get more information about what happened.
Yeah.
And then whether or not you pass or fail, like
if you have a good attorney, it doesn't mean shit anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they can use it. So
yeah. But see, here's the thing that gets me is that if you are in, like, this is going to be a very antiseptic environment, I would imagine, right? And it's going to be very serious. Like, I was thinking, do they give you the equipment to put on, or does someone put it on for you? Like, how does that work?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't
know. And so then, I mean, I think it would be an environment where if you actually were stimulated on anything, especially child pornography, like, you are a pedophile.
And that's what they're saying. And that's exactly the thrust of this test, is that it's in such a sterile environment, right? It's not like you're in a fucking club and there's music.
What's going on with your shoulders there?
And there's like smooth jazz. No, it's like you're sitting on a cold steel table with your balls out, okay? And there's some dude doctor probably strapping this thing onto you, all right? And then you're in there, and so it's the least sexy environment imaginable, okay? And so if there's right, and so to your point, if still looking at some kiddie porn starts getting you going, then they know exactly who you are, okay?
Absolutely.
Right, and so
I'm surprised they don't do this more.
I think they do. I think they do, but and again, according to other people smarter than me, that oftentimes it's not used to criminally prosecute. Okay, it's for people who may end up doing that, and they get them help, or they get them put away, or they get them chemically castrated, like whatever. Okay, a lot of times it's used to kind of spot a potential fucking problem coming down the pipe, right? But also in situations like this where we're like, hey, we can't be sure that you're going to be okay around even your own kids, right? So we got to find this shit out. and something flipped in him, you know?
Yeah, they weren't thinking. Again, I think that they underestimated him. And even though the Coxes were like, please, 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 please.
Big time underestimated his capacity for violence, which they shouldn't have if they already liked him for the murder of his wife. Okay. They shouldn't have overlooked that. So now let's get to the worst part of this entire episode. And one of probably the person that I've instantly hated more, instantly, actually, that there aren't levels of instant. I'm sorry. Let me take that back. But the first time I think that I had such a visceral reaction, like I was screaming at my computer at this fucking 911 operator. Okay.
Yeah. Who just channeling, who just
not felt like he had a little bit of power to wield over a hysterical woman, all right, and demeaning and talking down to her. You're not listening to me. How can you supervise yourself? I'm gonna mansplain shit to you.
And he wasn't the one listening. That's the thing.
Listening. He wasn't fucking
listening.
And now she maybe could have gotten her shit together a little bit with the address.
Well, let me just pause. I think this is a really important thing. And I know you get this. I know you do. So I'm not woman-splaining it to you. But this is one conversation, but women have to go through this so often. Even when she is like, this is an emergency. I'm worried for their lives. And he's still doing it.
Listen, little lady, just sit down and, have a Benson and Hedges and calm down because the big boys have to go deal with life-threatening stuff first. So you're going to have to wait.
I
She's like,
know.
this is life-threatening, dipshit. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the fucking place explodes.
Yeah. That's why I left it long, because I think that it's like you really need to know what she was up against and what she was trying. Because it's like, what do you do? All the doors were locked. And I think that after it happened, she got a lot of, there were some people who were critical of her. And it's like, what in the world could she do?
What do you do? Is she authorized to break and enter? No, I bet she's trained. I'm sure she's trained in exigency, I guess, but she's by herself. She's not law enforcement. She doesn't carry a weapon.
Well, and
She
her
doesn't
first
have a dad.
question was, what should I do?
Right.
She was like, what do I do? So, I mean, it was so, I mean, it probably wouldn't have made any difference anyway, because he was from the get-go doing it. But
right. He was committed, and you could hear, we were talking about this earlier today, the guilt in her voice, where she was like, they were one step ahead of me. It's like she was already kind of creating her defense, right? They were one step ahead of me. They were one step ahead of me, and he slammed the door in my face. One step ahead of me, slammed the door in my face. And I was
and
pounding.
anybody who's walked with children knows that is so, like, you're getting out of the car and they're running. And the sad thing is that they wanted to, even though they didn't want to see their dad that day, that
Right.
desire to be
yeah.
with your parent is so strong.
But it makes me think that maybe she was trained a different way. Maybe she was trained to always go into the house first.
Oh, you mean that's why she was saying, like, she should have gone
They
in
were
there?
they were only one step ahead of me. They're only one step ahead of me. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Maybe she was always because that would make sense to me for things just like this, right? Like, go in first, make sure there's no one else there, make sure that it's safe, right? Make sure that he's, not drunk or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because she was adamant about telling anybody who would listen, they were one step ahead of me, and I feel for her. I feel for her, but oh my gosh. So I think, I mean, and sadly, so many people from that bloodline are dead. Half of them deserved it, the other half didn't. But I'm just, the dad and the two brothers and the wife and the two kids. I mean, just like, holy fuck. It's so sad, so sad. So the boys were 7 and 5 when their dad murdered them. So did that shut up a lot of the people that were saying that the wife, met another man and ran off, and they're like, oh, that guy fucking killed her because look how he behaved afterwards. Like, because the guilt caught up with him also, guilt and fear of being exposed.
I mean, I don't think that anybody really believed that. I mean, maybe the people who wanted to believe that, I mean, there just was no evidence to support that.
Yeah.
And especially when it came out with the video that she'd taken, where I'm just wanting to document in case anything happens to me or my family, I hope everything works okay, does this eye roll, like she knows it's not going to work out. Like, and then the letter and the safety deposit box, like anybody who actually knows the case, even a little bit, would know that this is not, there's no evidence connecting these two, except for the dad and the Josh, who has obviously, a reason to try to blame, her, because that gets him off the hook.
So who's left in this? Just her parents, the Coxes? Is that's all that's
and she was one of 4, or yeah. So I think that there's, some aunties and stuff. Well, I mean, the kids are
and dipshit pedo guy, he had other siblings, right?
Yes, he had so he had 2 brothers,
Right.
and then he had 2 sisters. And
but the only one
of the
implicated
sisters,
was Michael. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, one of the sisters, the oldest sister, she went to the dad's house and was wired up and tried to get him to admit.
She turned.
And she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even that didn't
he
work.
No, the dad like kicked her out of the house.
He sniffed it. He sniffed her out. Like, you're wearing a wire. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a tragic.
I know. Story. It's so tragic. And the Cox family, that Chuck Cox. And I actually interviewed him for when I was working at a news radio station, because he does this charity called Charlie's Dinosaurs, and it's like a backpack where they put all the stuff for like homeless kids and foster kids, and I mean, this family is they're doing a lot of good, and I know they will do good with the money that they received. Like they
let's put Charlie's s'mores recipe in the show notes.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Great.
Yeah. Actually, even better, let's put Charlie's Dinosaur in this.
Yeah.
Let's help some kids.
Yep. Okay.
That it's a great charity.
Wow. Okay. Well, and this is what the Cold podcast is about. If people want to really dive deep into this,
absolutely, I highly recommend the Cold podcast.
Yeah,
it is the listening to this podcast made me want to start doing a true crime podcast because they just did it so well. And I think that, they brought a lot of awareness to domestic violence and, this case, it's tragic and horrible. It's kind of like what Ann Bremner said, something good needs to come out of this.
Yeah.
The Cox family worked with legislators in Utah and Washington to change the laws so that, if you're a person of interest in your spouse's murder, there needs to be guidelines that you shouldn't get the kids, until that's kind of cleared up.
Yeah.
Because if that would have happened in this case,
kids would be safe.
The kids would be safe. And they should have never not been in a facility. If they would have kept, but Josh was the type of person who just, he's probably like that 911 operator.
Ugh.
And he just was like insistent on getting his kids, and somebody caved and he got what he wanted.
I hope that 911 operator got retrained. That's what I hope, because that was appalling to listen to.
Yeah, and I think that's why this case.
They have a hard job, first responders, all that. I get it. They have a hard job, but come on.
Yeah. I think that's why this case hit so many notes with people, is because there were so many issues going on here and so many places where it could have turned a different way, but it didn't. And it, yeah.
All right. Well, hey, well done. That was a very interesting and tragic episode. But I was on an emotional roller coaster, of disgust and horror and a lot of curiosity, and and I learned some new medical terms, unfortunately. So yeah.
I'm sure your doctors had a lot to say about it.
But listen, an actual like doctor person, they talk about things with such a clinical detachment that it was nothing. There weren't any like stupid giggling like me, like I'm such a douche, right? It was just like, oh no, that's what this is for. It's a very serious device, and it's very accurate in this and used for this. I went, yeah, of course, I'm aware. Yes, very serious stuff going on.
Is that your like
my fake voice? That's my fake voice. My fake grown-up voice. Yeah,
I know you actually had like. The eyebrows were working.
Oh yeah. I can turn it on when I need to. I can turn it on. Yeah, I can turn it on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, that'll do it for this week, Nation. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Hope you enjoyed part 2 of what happened to Susan Cox Powell. Please consider going over to Apple and giving us a rate and a review, or sharing with your friends. And also, we'd very much appreciate it if you would consider supporting the great companies that support our show. Carolyn, anything else you'd like to add?
Nope. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. And until then, please stay safe, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye.
Booyah.
From Cloud 10, Criminal Mischief is a pie-in-the-sky production recorded in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. We're produced by Brandon Morgan and myself. Music by Soundstripe. I'm Carolyn Osorio, your writer and host.